control meets science.
When the prophet doubts the doom, what happens to the believers?
The Prophet of Carbon, in theaters now.
The climate cult just lost its biggest bankroller, Bill Gates. The man who spent decades preaching environmental apocalypse just committed heresy. In a shocking reversal that's fracturing the climate movement, Gates now admits that climate change won't end civilization. He's saying temperature isn't even the right measure of progress. He'd rather raise temperatures to cure malaria than chase net zero fantasies, and the left is eating itself alive. Climate high priest Michael Mann is calling Gates a traitor. The timing is suspicious. Just as the Senate investigates Gates Foundation for illegally funding Chinese military labs, suddenly Bill discovers climate pragmatism. This isn't just a policy shift, it's a collapse of a multi-trillion-dollar scam. The truth is finally winning. We have the receipts. Now, Bill Gates, he spent billions pushing climate doom with his own health, while his own health deteriorated. Now, he's admitting the truth while you still have time to protect yourself. That's why I trust C60 Evo, the Nobel Prize winning molecule that gave lab animals 90% longer lifespans. While Gates flip-flops on saving the planet, save yourself. My brain fog vanished, joint pain I battled for years gone. My wife looks and feels younger than she has in a decade. Now, this is not another supplement scam like the climate grift. It's 172 times more powerful than vitamin C, working at the cellular level where aging actually happens. The Paris study proved it. The scientist behind it, Chris Burres, has perfected it since 1991. The website, c60evo.com/NNN. And use code NNN because while billionaires change their stories, your health is the only truth that matters. So this is the big breaking story today. Did not have this on my bingo card for this year. Bill Gates admits climate change will not lead to humanity's demise. And right on cue, we find out this from Paul Sperry. The Senate Judiciary is investigating the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for funneling millions of dollars into the Chinese PLA fronts in violation of IRS rules against charities funding foreign governments under Foundation 501c3 nonprofit charter. Interesting timing, right? Bill Gates jumping ship on climate alarmism says it's not the end of the world. Temperature isn't the most important metric. Money being spent poorly. This is a white flag from someone who fought hard for an insane set of ideas and lost. Truth one, climate change is a serious problem, but it will not be the end of civilization. This is from the Gates notes. Bill Gates notes. Even if the world takes only moderate action to curb climate change, the current consensus is that by 2100, the Earth's average temperature will probably be between 2 Celsius and 3 Celsius higher than it was in 1850. Temperature is not the best way to measure our progress on climate. Wow. Health and prosperity are the best defense against climate change. This is a chance, he says, to refocus on the metric that should count even more than emission and temperature change, improving lives. Our chief goal should be to prevent suffering, particularly for those in the toughest conditions who live in the world's poorest countries. Although climate change will hurt poor people more than anyone else, for the vast majority of them, it will not be the only or even the biggest threat to their lives and welfare. The biggest problems are poverty and disease, just as they've always been. Understanding this will let us focus our limited resources on interventions that will have the greatest impact for the most vulnerable people. He goes on to write that I know some climate advocates will disagree with me, call me a hypocrite because of my own carbon footprint, which I fully offset with legitimate carbon credits, or see this as a sneaky way of arguing that we shouldn't take climate change seriously. Well, Michael Mann now attacking Bill Gates for making a marginally less doomsday prognostication about climate change.
Bill Gates, who just 4 years ago wrote a book about impending climate disaster and invested billions to avoid it, today said that climate change will not destroy humanity. And I want to play a little bit of what he told to CNBC.
Climate is a super important problem. There's enough innovation here to avoid super bad outcomes. We won't achieve our best goal, the 1.5 or even the 2 degrees. And as we go about trying to minimize that, we have to frame it in terms of overall human welfare, not just everything should be solely for climate.
Critics are already saying that he seems to be setting up an argument that climate change efforts hurt foreign aid for the poor, that it's an either-or proposition. Do you hear in what he says a reframing from someone who has been a force in the climate change field?
Yeah, it's very disappointing. And frankly, Bill Gates doesn't have any expertise in climate science. And he's failing to listen to what the experts actually have to say. And we're seeing it play out in real time right here. You know, disastrous climate change is not far off in the future. It's not 1.5 Celsius. It's not 2 Celsius, as he suggests. It's here. And the question is, how bad are we willing to let it get? And if we continue to warm the planet beyond that level of warming, we will exceed our adaptive capacity. And so when Bill Gates says we'll just sort of try to engineer our way out of it or innovate our way out of it, it's really tone deaf to the fact that there are a very large number of people who will suffer catastrophic consequences if
you said people gonna die?
Yeah, Jar Jar.
we continue to allow the planet to warm up by continuing to burn fossil fuels. And I wish that Bill Gates would use the platform that he has to urge politicians and policymakers to help us transition away from dirty carbon energy towards clean energy as quickly as possible.
Michael Mann, always great to have you.
Michael Mann, not too pleased. In 2019, Bill Gates was saying that we had to stop cows from farting, eat fake meat, and get to zero emissions globally to prevent catastrophe. Here he is in 2019 and then 2025.
Was how great a problem bovine flatulence is.
Nobody knows how to get rid of
No one knows how to get cows to stop farting.
exactly our burping. And so there is artificial meat, but that's at a very early stage. If it was a 50% reduction, then you could ignore, okay, leave the cows alone. But because we're trying to avoid the temperature continuing to go up, you do need to go to zero, not just.
And now he hears it 2025.
Everything should be solely for climate. Wasn't the goal here to improve human lives? Climate is super important, but has to be considered in terms of overall human welfare.
Was
Overall human welfare, huh? Rob Schneider. Here's what, as a comedian, I love Rob Schneider.
And I just wonder. And then we have another crazy billionaire, Bill Gates, says there's too many of us. His thing by 2030 is to depopulate the planet. And I just wondered, like, are we part of the population that he wants to depopulate? Says there's too many of us. And he says it. And people go, it's a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy theory. He said it. You can go on YouTube. He said Bill Clinton. Bill Gates. I'm sorry, I was thinking about Epstein's Island for a second. So, Bill Gates, you go see on YouTube. He says one of the goals by 2030 is to lower the population of the planet, and one of the ways to do that is using vaccines. It's like, what? And people go, no, that's a conspiracy theory. So he said it. You can go see. He said, yeah, but it's a conspiracy theory to think, he meant what he said. Just what? He said it. He meant it. He's doing it, and it's working. And people go, it's a conspiracy theory. What? That's like if Bill Cosby said, listen, if you drink this, I am going to you. And people are like, nah, you're not. That's a conspiracy theory. No, if you drink this, I will be in every one of your orifices by morning. You will wake up with my dick in your ear, I promise you. Nah, you're just being funny, Bill Cosby. Yeah. And then we have another crazy billionaire, Bill Gates.
Schneider, dude. Dude, that was some funny. That's funny. Bill Gates, to the world, stop obsessing over CO2 and start saving people. Bill Gates has told the climate world to change the subject in a 17-page memo ahead of next month's UN summit in Brazil. He calls for a strategic pivot away from cutting emissions and towards fighting poverty, disease, and suffering in the world's poorest countries. Gates' argument in a sentence, climate change is serious but not civilization ending, and the obsession with emissions is starving real human solutions. Here is Pete Hegseth on the announcement of the internal audit of Bill Gates Foundation. This is August 31st of this year.
Cloud system. Last month, the Department of Defense was made aware of an Obama-Biden-era legacy program called Digital Escorts. For nearly a decade, Microsoft has used Chinese coders, remotely supervised by U.S. contractors, to support sensitive DoD cloud systems.
Oh, my God.
The program was designed to comply with contracting rules, but it exposed the department to unacceptable risk. I mean, if you're thinking America first and common sense, this doesn't pass either of those tests. So I initiated an immediate review of this vulnerability, and I want to report our initial findings. So the use of Chinese nationals to service Department of Defense cloud environments, it's over. We've issued a formal letter of concern to Microsoft documenting this breach of trust, and we're requiring a third-party audit of Microsoft's digital escort program, including the code and the submissions by Chinese nationals. This audit will be free of charge for U.S. taxpayers. I'm also tasking the Department of Defense experts with a separate investigation of the digital escort program and the Chinese Microsoft employees that were involved in it. These investigations will help us determine the impact of this digital escort workaround. Did they put anything in the code that we didn't know about? We're going to find out.
Lots of pressure on Bill Gates these days. From the DOD to the other investigation here. Let's see, what is this here? This is the problem with society in general is that there's no accountability at all.
At all. I also think, and this is probably the bigger picture here, we're taking the accountability away from the kids themselves. And the problem with society in general is that there's no accountability at all. I mean, we have people like Eric Adams, who was indicted, and the indictment was entirely dropped. We have, Bill Gates and Anthony Fauci, crimes against humanity, still walking the streets. So if we are not holding the people in power accountable for their wrongdoing, why are we feigning accountability with children?
Maybe that's the reason Bill Gates is suddenly singing a different tune. Here's Joe Rogan.
Do it. Like, you have people like Bill Gates saying that planting trees to deal with carbon is ridiculous. That's a ridiculous way to do it. Like, how is that ridiculous? They literally turn carbon dioxide into oxygen. It is their food. That's what the food of plants is. That's what powers the whole plant life and the way we have the symbiotic relationship with them. And the more carbon dioxide is, the greener it is, which is why it's greener today on Earth than it has been in 100 years.
Sure.
These are all facts that are inconvenient to people that have a very specific, narrow window of how to approach this.
Now that tune is changing. Let's see here. Yes, the Senate Judiciary investigating Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for funneling millions of dollars to the Chinese PLA. DC Drano says, and now we know why Bill Gates said climate change isn't that big of a deal anymore. His foundation's getting investigated. Bill Gates jumping the ship, a huge victory. DC Drano writes, Bill Gates and the climate change alarmists are finally admitting humans will be just fine. Truth tellers were demonized for years for saying the extremism was unwarranted, but even with massive censorship, the data keeps proving human activity isn't causing the planet to combust. The conspiracy theorists remain undefeated. Bill Gates shocking the left. John Stossel even weighing in. Bill Gates changing his tune. Now he calls the doomsday view of climate change wrong. Welcome to the club, Bill. Here's a 3-minute climate scientists debunk several of the doomsday myths.
Scares. This environmental catastrophe bearing down on us.
I keep hearing that we're killing the earth.
How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood.
But wait, I've been a consumer reporter for years. I've covered so many scares. Plague, famine, and perpetual war will kill us. We're going to run out of oil. Nuclear power will give us cancer. Killer bees swarm ever closer. Bird flu, flesh-eating bacteria. The list of terrible things that were going to get us is long. And yet we're living longer than ever. None of those scares turned out to be as frightening as the warnings. But I'm told global warming is different.
Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction.
The alarmists have evidence that supports their fears. Temperature is rising. The UN predicts that it'll rise another 2 to 5 degrees.
What do we do when the land we live on is under attack?
But does that justify the fear?
Climate change is not a lie, so please don't let our planet die.
Does it justify this claim?
We have 12 years to act.
We have 12 years.
We have 12 years before the effects are irreversible.
Really? 12 years?
It's warmed up around 1 degree Celsius since 1900, and life expectancy doubled the industrialized democracies, and yet that temperature ticks up another ½ degree, and the entire system crashes. That's the most absurd belief.
I recently moderated this debate on climate change at the Heartland Institute. Well, not a debate, because the alarmists who were invited didn't show. Heartland invited many.
Please come over here and sit next to that place and let's have a discussion. There are a lot more people want to hear what you have to say.
Climate alarmists never agree to debate. We'd love to offer you the airtime. We will give it to you. I'll give you a special phone number that goes to this phone. I invited Al Gore on my show often, but he would never come.
In order to solve the climate crisis,
he makes a lot of speeches, but won't respond to people who disagree. It's too bad that the alarmists won't debate, because so much of what they say deserves debate.
The world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change.
12 years.
Well, and in 12 years, it'll be 12 more years.
David Legates is a professor of climatology at the University of Delaware. Pat Michaels is former president of the American Association of State Climatologists. Willie Soon is an astrophysicist.
It's all about hand waving, it's about emotion, about sending out kids in protest. We have nothing to do with the science.
This group pointed out that even if the planet warms by 5 degrees, humans can adjust. People in Holland did years ago.
They said, we're going to adapt to the fact that we're a low-lying country, and we're going to build these dikes, and we're going to build these pumps. Are you telling me that the people in Miami are so dumb that they're just going to sit there and drown?
You acknowledge, though, the water is rising.
Yes, water has been rising for approximately 20,000 years and probably will continue.
But we can adapt, like Holland has. Except the alarmists say hurricanes and other storms are getting worse.
It's getting stronger and stronger. The winds are getting harder and harder.
No, they aren't. You can take a look at all the hurricanes that around the planet. We can see them since 1970 because we got global satellite coverage. Right. And we can measure their power, and we can add up their power. And there is no significant increase whatsoever. There is no relationship between hurricane activity and the surface temperature of the planet.
The claim that hurricanes are getting worse and the 12-year deadline were 2 of 4 myths I heard the Heartland panel convincingly debunk. Myth number 3 was that government action today will save us.
We have to act now.
The Obama administration's model projects that the amount of global warming that would be saved for going to zero emissions tomorrow, you don't know how to do that, put you back in the Stone Age, but let's just say we did it, would be 0.14 of a degree Celsius.
So no real effect on the climate, but
you'll sure have an impoverished, dark country, won't you?
Myth number 4, the idea that carbon dioxide is carbon pollution that just does harm and threatens the food supply.
There are places on Earth where it is just greening up like crazy.
So if you're really concerned about the plants, more carbon dioxide makes them not just grow faster, but also makes them more water efficient.
Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, but
If you got value for this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. So this is what victory looks like. The man who wanted you eating bugs and banning cows just admitted it was all theater. Gates now says that humans will live and thrive after terrorizing the world with doomsday predictions for decades. But here's the real story. The climate industrial complex is collapsing. When your biggest funder jumps ship, the grift is over. They never mention that carbon dioxide is plant food. Trees literally breathe it in and turn it into oxygen. More CO2 means greener earth, but that truth doesn't sell carbon credits. Michael Mann's meltdown proves it. They're turning on each other like rabid dogs. Meanwhile, the Senate's investigating Gates for funneling millions to the Chinese military. Coincidence? Please. The climate scam was always about control, not temperature. So here is a question for the comment section. Was Gates lying then or lying now? Drop your answer below and get your next news gear from our shop, because that is where truth tellers unite.